Hello, everyone. My name is George, and I'm a League of Legends enthusiast who's better at arguing with teenagers than surviving Souls games. My entire Dark Souls career, you ask? 4 minutes. I rolled off a cliff with my class, panicked, and I guess you could say uninstalled faster than you could say you died. So, no, I in fact did not play Sekiro. Shadows died twice. But I've studied it. Pro players getting humbled by a sword wielding monkey, friends muttering, "Parry timing," like a cursed mantra. And here's what hooked me. It's when even Souls veterans call Sekiro brutal. It's not just hard, it's a philosophy. A game that asks who deserves to play. FromSoftware Sekiro, directed by Hidetaka Miyazaki, isn't just another Souls-like. It's an action-adventure game that demands precision, aggression, and rhythm over grinding, exploration, or build optimization. It won Game of the Year, but also ignited fierce debates about difficulty, accessibility, and what fairness in gaming really means. I'm responding mainly to the larger conversation around Sekiro's difficulty, and specifically engaging with arguments from writers like Adam Rosenberg and Joshua Gad, who argue that accessibility isn't about making a game easier, but about making it more playable for more people. And I agree. I want to complicate their arguments by adding that it's not just about physical access, but emotional access too. How games frame perseverance, success, and belonging. In this essay, I'll break down Sekiro's core design philosophy and how it reshapes player expectations compared to traditional Souls games, why it struggles with accessibility, and why that tension between exclusivity and invitation matters for the future of gaming. Expect a mix of analysis, respectful critique, and a few jokes at my own expense. Let's get into it. Sekiro isn't just tough, it's a therapist for Souls-born habits. Dodging, Estus chugging, respecking into a tank build, Sekiro tosses those crutches into a bonfire and hands you a katana instead. You're now a wolf, a shinobi, bound to a code: stealth, speed, aggression. The game rewards playing like a ghost. Drop kill a mini boss, vanish into the shadows, and strike before the enemy finishes their opening taunt. But Soul's instincts backfire. Try dodge rolling in Sekiro, and you'll eat a combo fiercer than my grandma's lasagna recipe. The skill trees, shinobi arts, prosthetic tools may look expansive, but as Fine Cowboy and Command Prompt Gaming on YouTube put it,
and Spiral Cloud Passage, which sounds awesome, and you would expect it to be phenomenal, costing 9 points. Ultimately, I found it just didn't do much. I was actually really disappointed by this. Empowered Mortal Draw, on the other hand, is just a very solid pickup.
I would say that this is the biggest wedge that's been driven between casual Souls players and Sekiro enthusiasts. Elden Ring and the other Souls games can be overcome by problem solving and exploration a lot of the time, but Sekiro has to be overcome by mechanical skill. Understanding how the game is supposed to be played and mastering that playstyle is paramount. It's not for everyone, and describes it best when he says,
At the end of the day, I feel like Sekiro just has everyone fooled into thinking that this is just your regular action-adventure game, but the reality of it all is it's basically like Guitar Hero set on expert from the jump, and your special moves and prosthetics is just like a temporary star power you can use.
most skills are as practical as a chocolate teapot. No respecking, no grinding, just a binary adapt or perish. Posture, not health, is the battlefield. You can land hits all day, but if you're not breaking their stance, you're basically just giving them free acupuncture. Posture regenerates faster than a toddler on a Skittles high. It's a system that punishes hesitation and rewards rhythm, like a dance where missteps end in decapitation. And the music of that dance? Aggression, hyper aggression. You don't win by playing safe. You win by parrying into the enemy, pushing the tempo, and landing that sweet, satisfying death blow. And as Fagin Cowboy put it,
Things like Bloodborne and Dark Souls, you're used to much more slow, methodical combat, whereas in Sekiro, combat is almost like a dance. The clash of the blades is your beat, and it's all about executing your deflects and weaving in your attacks to just create this beautiful melody. And the more you get it down, the more you get that timing down, almost just like playing an instrument, it starts to flow a whole hell of a lot better.
Sekiro doesn't care if you're a Souls veteran. It demands that you unlearn everything. Because this isn't about grinding stats or chasing mechanics. It's about choreography, not attrition. Here's the thing. Difficulty and accessibility are not the same. When fans ask, could Sekiro be more accessible? Purists scream, don't dilute the vision. But let's get one thing straight. Difficulty is mastering Genichiro's lightning reversals. Accessibility is letting someone with arthritis remap the controls so they can even attempt those reversals. As Adam Rosenberg from Mashable puts it, accessibility is about removing or mitigating those unintentional barriers, the obstacles that spring up and prevent a chunk of the audience from enjoying the game on the same level as the target crowd. In a way, I like to interpret this as how accessibility isn't about lowering the bar, it's about widening the door. And Sekiro doesn't widen the door, it boards it shut. No colorblind modes, no remappable controls, no timing assist, no pause button, unless you count death as a break. The game demands perfection on its terms. And while that's bold, it's also kind of myopic. Joshua Gad from Superjump nails it by saying, the difficulty in Souls-likes is just one way to achieve the success through persistence. The problem occurs when something outside the player's control stops them from persisting to success. This could be something simple like not wanting to invest multiple days into the game, or it could be something more complicated like a health condition. Like imagine having a chronic pain, or ADHD, or even dyslexia. Imagine balancing work, family, and a game that treats flexibility like a dirty word. Sekiro doesn't just challenge you, it excludes you completely. There's this myth that challenge and accessibility are enemies. They're not. They're collaborators. Celeste has assist mode, Hades has God mode, and God of War Ragnarök gives a difficulty menu longer than a CVS receipt. And those games? Critically acclaimed, emotionally resonant, loved. Sekiro could have been all that and still stayed true to its core. Instead, it planted its flag on a mountain and dared anyone with less than perfect timing to climb. Let's talk about emotional difficulty. Sekiro doesn't just kill your character, it questions your self-worth. In Dark Souls, you can blame the stats, the build, the gear. In Sekiro, you are the build. Every mistake is yours. Every failure, personal. And the game lets you know. Every misparry, every misread cue, every "how was that a thrust" scream, it echoes back with the subtlety of a jump scare. It whispers, this is all your fault. And yet it's mesmerizing. When you nail a boss, it feels like you just composed a symphony of violence. The rhythm, the deflects, the kill, it's beautiful. But for many players, that beauty comes at a cost. Alienation. For every no-hit run on YouTube, there are hundreds who quit. Not because they lack skill, but because the game refused to meet them halfway. Now here's the twist. Sekiro's rigidity, it sparked a revolution. FromSoftware's next project, Elden Ring, said, okay, what if we give players options? And guess what? It exploded. Summons, spirit ashes, a massive open world. Elden Ring wasn't easier. It was more playable. And that's a huge difference. Celeste, Hades, God of War Ragnarok, all games that prove a single beautiful point. Challenge and accessibility can live together. Meanwhile, Sekiro became a badge. You beat Sekiro, you belong. You're elite. But when we treat games like exclusive clubs, we lose sight of why we played them in the first place. And here's my take. The real danger isn't just the challenge. It's the culture that surrounds it. We've romanticized struggle to the point where overcoming hardship becomes the only valid form of success. But that mindset narrows what games can be. It feeds into a vision of exclusivity where resilience is a prerequisite for belonging, and where the joy of playing is only validated by the pain of persevering. That doesn't just lock the door for others, it makes suffering a gatekeeper. And the thing is, exclusivity doesn't always announce itself with malice. Sometimes it's cloaked in admiration. This game changed my life. I felt so powerful when I finally won. That emotional high, it's real and valid. But when we turn personal triumph into a universal standard, we risk reinforcing an idea, a single idea of what success should look like. And that's where empathy has to enter the conversation. Because at its best, gaming isn't just a skill test, it's a shared space. A sandbox of different minds, bodies, and lives. When we insist that everyone must suffer equally to earn that experience, we strip games of their most radical potential. To include, to adapt, to bring joy without prerequisites. Exclusivity in game design might feel noble, pure. But purity comes with a price. If we want games to evolve, to inspire, and to welcome, then flexibility isn't compromise, it's strength. Studying Sekiro raised some tough questions for me. How much of a game's challenge is skill-based, and how much is expectation-based? How do design choices either invite players to grow or push them away? At first, I thought difficulty was just a part of the genre's DNA, but the deeper I went, watching players get wrecked by bosses like Lady Butterfly and the Guardian Ape, I realized Sekiro isn't difficult in the way most Souls games are. It's more rigid, more demanding, less forgiving. In Dark Souls, you can grind stats, respec, summon help, or even cheese bosses from a distance like I mentioned earlier. In Sekiro, you get one sword, one skill set, and one rhythm you must master. If you don't learn to deflect, counter, and stay aggressive, you are finished. No amount of stubbornness will save you. And this rigidity creates a very specific experience. Exhilarating if you click with it, alienating if you don't. And crucially, Sekiro teaches you its rules through brutal trial and error. It gives you sparring sessions with Hanbei the Undying. Sure, but it rarely explains deeper nuances in posture management, stagger thresholds, or optimal aggression timings. You're expected to figure it all out, or quit. That experience confirmed my stance. I'm not saying Sekiro should be easy, but I am saying that without accessible design options, whether mechanical or instructional, it locks joy behind a gate that many players never get the chance to open. As Joshua Gad concludes, what remains to be true is that games flourish when we foster a welcoming place. And I'd add, it's about understanding that mastery and empathy aren't opposites. They can and should exist cohesively. So, is Sekiro hard? Yeah, it's brutal. But that's not even the most interesting part. The interesting part is what that difficulty means. What it says about design, about exclusion, about empathy. Sekiro could have added options, a parry assist toggle, a visual rhythm guide, a narrative mode with slower posture recovery. None of those features would have stopped hardcore players from flexing. They would have just let more people join the dance. But instead, Sekiro stood its ground, and in doing so, it drew a line. Play our way, or don't play at all. But the best games, they don't draw lines, they draw circles. They say, you're invited. And that's how we make gaming better. Not by locking the door, but by holding it open.